in the context of being a professional developer, you got like the homework is kind of modeling what kind of tasks you'll get at work, which will, sometimes they'll be very well defined tasks, and they'll be like, do this, exactly this, and anything other than that is wrong. Um, and in this case, like we're learning, and you took something we've been learning as well, and you made it better. So that's excellent as well. So I'll just like walk through my thought process as if I was doing this as my own homework, and hopefully it will make a little bit more sense to everybody. Let me share my screen.
I went the same route as Leah, but
Cool.
mine
It's my.
doesn't work.
It's mostly just that that's what I'm comfortable with. That's because that's what we've done more so much. So that's just what I thought would be best.
Good, and that's perfectly fine. Like, you know, I think it's excellent that you went above and beyond and turned it into Express app. I tried to make the homework a small enough package that you could easily do it in like an hour and then spend more time working on other things. And so I tried to make it as short and sweet as possible. Where are we at? Week 8. Where's this homework here? Cool. All right. Yep. View assignment. Oh, that's gonna give us the. I'll have to edit. You guys get a better view of this than I do. Edit, maybe? Yeah, fine. Okay. So create a new project on GitHub called NodeDB. So let's do step 1. GitHub, right? New NodeDB. Public is fine. README and a get ignore. We need to make sure we put node in here. And then create repository. So step 1 is completely done. Step 2, pull down the project and initialize this project with npm. I'm going to do that right now. Copy this information. I'm going to create myself a thing. cd CBC 12. I'm going to do git clone, shift insert, right? All stuff we should be pretty comfortable with doing at this stage. All right, so it exists here. So I'm going to go to NodeDB. Okay, and then the next step, step 3, is let me see if I can squish this up a bit. Yep, we gotta do npm init, right? I need to initialize this as a project, so I'm gonna do exactly that. NodeDB, perfect. Yep, fine. Keywords, storage, yes. Okay. Then it says create a new database schema called NodeDB. Right. So you did it through here. Let's do it through here as well. How do I make a schema in here? Yeah. Leave this page. Probably hidden into this menu. Yeah. Create database. So I'm going to call it NodeDB create. Okay. So I've got my thing. Then it says inside NodeDB create a table called fruits that has ID, fruit name, and quantity, and that should be an integer. Okay, great. So I'm going to make a table. Fruits. It's going to have 3 columns, not 4. And we're going to say ID. I'll make this full screen. And that is int. I'm going to say auto increment. Great. Fruit. This can be a varchar. Let's make that 50. I don't know how many fruits I'm going to put in here. And then quantity needs to be an integer, right? Seems like you guys all were pretty good at this part. Nobody struggled making a table. All right, so we've got our fruit there. So back to now it's time to code. All right, create a script called insert.js that will insert a record into this table using Node.js and the MySQL package. So I'm going to pull up Visual Studio Code. Pull up a new window. Close this bad boy. Alright, open folder. CBC 12. NodeDB. Perfect. Alright, I need a terminal. And I want it to be bash because PowerShell makes me angry. Good. Alright, new file. It should be called insert.js that will insert a record into this table using Node.js and the MySQL package. So that's all it says to do. So it's pretty easy, right? So actually I'm going to do it the other way. Right click, new file, insert.js. So I know I need MySQL. Okay, and then we do const connection equals MySQL dot connection, and I need to put in a host, localhost, port 3306, user, root, and there's no password for this account. Oh, it's password. Okay, so that should make a connection for me. And then it says insert a record into this table using Node.js and MySQL package. It doesn't say we need to print anything. It doesn't say we need to build a server or anything. So I'm just going to do connection.query, and I will say insert into fruits values. Let's see, ID. Let's just do fruit quantity, and I'll make this a little bigger. And then values. And I like watermelon. Seems good to me. Watermelon and 5. Good example. Yeah. And I don't like that this. I'm using a really big font here for y'all to see, so I'm going to move this into a variable. Let query equals that. So I can do query, and then my callback function is error result. Okay. And then in here, I'm just going to simply say if we're in here, right? Like if there's an error, like console.error error. Otherwise, we can just say console.log inserted a record. Okay. So this program exists now, and it should theoretically run, except it's not because we didn't install a MySQL package yet. So let's just test this. Insert.js. And yeah, it's going to tell us cannot find module MySQL. So we can do this npm install. Oh, I never did npm init, did I? Did I? Yeah, I did. Npm install MySQL. Save. Okay. And now if we run this program, MySQL dot, oh, it's excuse me, it's create connection. Create connection. Oh, and I forgot to select the database. So schema, right? Or is it database? Database, yeah. And what is it called? Node DB. Perfect. So it tells us our errors. Yeah, no database selected. So let's run it again. It inserted a record. We can go and just verify that our table now has a watermelon in it. Yeah, 1 watermelon. And if I came in here just to test to make sure my code is good, I can put in like apple. I'll say I've got 12 apples. Okay, so I'm going to close this with Control-C and run it again. Cool. Oh, I forgot to save. Dang it. So I'll run it again. I've got 2 watermelons now. Apple 12. Now, I didn't specify to do this in the instructions, but we probably also want to come in here and say connection.close so that it ends the connection. Oh, connection.close. What is it? Disconnect. Let's see. Connection.disconnect. End. Yeah, there we go. Connection.end. So now it just inserts a record and immediately exits the program. So I can come in here and check whatever I wanted, like banana. I've only got 2 of those, and I run the program and it inserts a record. So that's step 1. Now, I am extremely lazy programmer, so what I would probably do is, okay, step 6 says create a script called select all that will select all the records from the table and display them in the console. So I'm just going to copy this, copy insert.js, I'm going to paste it, I'm going to rename this as select all. And this one, right, the connection information is good, and so I'm just going to do, select ID fruit quantity from fruits. Okay, it's going to run that query, and then the instructions for number 6 says display them in the console. So I could do this a couple of different ways. I could either do console.log results. Right, this should work. So if I run node select all.js, it's going to display those records. But we're good programmers here, so let's just loop through it. For var I equals 0. All right. Let I equals 0, I is less than results.length, I plus plus. Console.log results I dot fruit. Okay. And then if I run this now, it's just going to display watermelon, watermelon, apple, apple, banana. Both of these versions, whether it's console.log, the full results array, or looping through it yourself, satisfies the requirements of this homework. Right? It says display them in the console. So there's the console. This is our terminal. Then create a script called update.js that will select a single record, display it to the console, and then change the name of the fruit and the quantity of that single record. So these instructions are kind of unclear, though, I mean, it's very clear what it is expecting of us, but it says display a record, then update it. It does not tell us to display it again, which doesn't make any sense, right? So maybe we want to have it do what Leah's did, where we have 3. But if we wanted to just write exactly what they asked us to do here, then let's just do that. So I'm going to copy select all. I'm going to paste again, and what is it called? Update. Rename update.js. It says select a single record displayed in the console, and then change the name of the fruit and the quantity of that single record. Okay, so we're going to do select ID fruit quantity from fruits, where ID equals 4. Okay, so I'm going to select it, and let's just make sure we're on the right path. Console.log results. Okay, so I'm going to do node update.js. Okay, I have a single record. It is an apple, and it has a quantity of 12. So let's now update that. And Leah is right in that you're going to have to do some kind of nested query here. So let's do connection.query update fruits set fruit equals someone name a good fruit.
Banana.
I already have a banana. Give me something else.
Kiwi.
Hey, Jake.
Dragon fruit.
Dragon fruit's a good one too. Fruit equals kiwi, and comma quantity equals 63. Where ID equals 4. All right, we want to operate on the same record, and then we say function error result. Make sure we close that off, and then when we're in here, right? If there's an error, we want to always make sure we're good. Console.error, and we'll say update error plus error. Right. So if there is an error, we want to know which one of these is causing our error. So it's always best to, when you are nested like this, one of the things you can do to prevent, which query is causing the problem is, you can give yourself little hints like this for the logs. Okay. So if there's an error, right, the instructions don't say to display anything, but we know we want to check this. We can just say console.log updated the fruit to kiwi. Right? And so if I run this right now, it's going to display apple 12 because that's what row 4 has, or record 4 has. But then the next time I run this script, if I just run it twice in a row, it's going to say kiwi the next time because we updated the record. Right? Oh, perfect. So update error cannot enqueue query after invoking quit. Updated fruit to kiwi. Cannot enqueue query. After invoking quit. Never seen that error before. Let's take this out and see if that fixes it. Updated fruit to kiwi. Yeah, now it's changed to kiwi. It must have happened too quickly. Connection.end. Let's put this in. Oh, I know the problem is. So this is asynchronous, right? We want to put connection.end, and this is going to be a problem with all of our code, right? We only want to close the connection after we're done with our queries. So there was a query that was running, and it took a little while, but JavaScript had already gone down here on line 31 and had closed the connection. So that was what caused that issue. So now let's change this to, so that should, yep, perfect. So let's change this to like ID 5, right? 5 was what for us? Reload. 5 is banana. Let's change banana to something else, right? I heard Gregory said dragon fruit. Let's make it dragon fruit. Dragon fruit, and we only have those are kind of rare, so we only have 6 of those. Okay. So if I rerun update.js, it's going to say banana because that's what's on line row 5. But now it's going to, I should have said banana, dragon fruit. Okay. But if we check our data over here, right, this is now dragon fruit, and there's 6. So that is the homework. Commit all your changes to GitHub and include a link to your repository. So just come in here and completed homework. Okay. So making an Express web page is perfectly acceptable. If you wanted to do that, the more practice you have that there, the better. But this is all you had to do. Just write 3 separate scripts because Node can be a server-side scripting language as well, right? It doesn't have to be a server all the time. Any questions? Does that make sense? Cool. All right. Where we're going to start today is we're going to spend the first hour just continuing on with where we were yesterday. We were building that recipe database-driven recipe website, and I did a little bit of digging. And as soon as I had a full night of sleep, I came back in, and the problem to my remember yesterday we had that problem that was causing a database error to occur. It was actually user error. It was my fault, not programming's fault. So let's dive back into where we were at. Let's take a look at where we kind of left off. All right, so yesterday we made it so that we have a route. If we pass an ID in the recipe thing, it loads that recipe from the database. Right, and so we can click on water. Yep. Ice cube, spicy water, and where we left off yesterday is we built some client-side JavaScript so that we can come in here and say, give me a recipe. What do we want to make?
Hot wings.
Hot wings, perfect. All right, and we'll just use a little thing. Hot wings are hot. Yay. And so we know we need 6 wings. We need butter, hot sauce. Right? Pretty simple recipe. And when we save it now, all of those ingredients come in. The client-side JavaScript that we were really proud of yesterday was that we gave ourselves an event on focus that as soon as I focus on a record, I get an extra input that's here, and we did that. That's all client-side. Remember, so we have ingredient focus, so that each of these inputs, when we focus on it, it creates a new input below it. And then because we gave all of these the exact same name, right? These are all called ingredients. When we submit this form to JavaScript, to our Express server in JavaScript, it posts to new recipe, and then we are inserting the recipe. That was the first thing we're doing, and then we wanted to insert the ingredients. And if you can kind of see here in the console, this comes in as an array for us, right? So it'll come in as like ingredient 6 wings. So the problem that we had yesterday is we were trying to use the MySQL. Like this syntax lets us insert multiple records, right? We can insert into ingredients recipe ID, ingredient, and then 6 wings. But the problem is we forgot that we were asking for recipe ID and ingredient, and this array that was coming back, ingredients that's coming across here, it just had the ingredient. We forgot to we have to loop through this array and include the recipe ID, which is how we associate those. So as soon as I looped it and turned it into an array, right now this works perfectly. So we can update multiple records in one single query, and that creates the recipe. So where we left off, right, we want to kind of do the same thing but with directions. Okay, that's really the last step here. We need to be able to add directions. So we've already written pretty good code here. So let's do the exact same thing but for the directions as we go along. Is everyone following along? Any questions or anything you want to take a look at before we can move on? No? All right. So let's go back to our HTML. Perfect. So we're just going to copy this because it's pretty good code. And we'll say directions. And we'll say direction inputs. Directions inputs. And we'll say first direction, because we want to be able to attach that event handler. And we'll give all of these the same names as well, directions. Okay? So if we reload our page over here, yep, now we have a directions. Let's add a BR here to give us some padding. Okay, perfect, directions. Into JavaScript again, right? So we have our if document.getElement by ID first ingredient. Let's just copy this whole thing. So if there's a direction, first direction, add event listener focus. Okay, so this is going to be a problem for us, right? We have a function that we wrote that is called ingredient focus that is going to create an ingredients element. We probably want to, I mean, there's a simple way. We can copy the whole function and say direction focus, and then change everything to be direction focus. We need to change the name to direction. And we need to make it direction focus. And we need to make this directions input. Right? So this will work. But I think we can, right? Your spider sense should be tingling. You should realize, hey, I have the function that's doing the same thing. The only thing that's different is like what the name is and the like the information about it. So let's see if there's a better way to do this, right? So we know the element, right? So the event.target knows its name, right? So if we did a console.log l.name, right? Let's reload and look at the console, right? Ingredients, right? So we already have part of the word we need. So let's see if we can just rewrite this ingredients focus to be a little bit smarter, right? So that we can use the same function for both. So let's just say list focus or input focus. Okay, we'll change this because this is the function input focus. Okay, and then down here, instead of doing ingredient focus, we can do input focus for both of them. All right, so we know if I run this right now, right, it should reload the page. All right, that gives us ingredients, that gives us directions, so we're real close. So if we're in here, new l.name, let's give ourselves a variable. Let input name equals el.name. So instead of new l.name, we just do input name. Okay. We're adding the input focus, this function, on the new one so that it gets this functionality too. And then right here where it says ingredients inputs append child, we want this to be direction or input name plus inputs. Huh? That was pretty easy. Are we missing anything? Nope. So let's take out our logging statement. And if we reload the page, that gives us that. Perfect. So this works exactly like we think it should. Right? We used one function, and because we chose good names back over here, where both of these are named the same kind of way, right? One is directions, one is ingredients. All that matters is when, we can use one function and copy that same line of code to grab this out, right? We could have also probably put a class in here if we wanted, or we could have used a data element, data list type equals ingredients, right? If we needed to get that information into our JavaScript, but we already had it in the name attribute, and so and because we named our div where we actually have to insert the new, we have to append the new child there. Both of those work. So we get to write one function, gives us better bang for our buck. And so now, if we were to submit, let's put in, let's make a new super hot wing recipe. Super, let's say scorching wings. Right. These wings will melt your face. Okay, right? If we put in wings, or what do we do? 6 wings, butter, hot sauce, right? We also probably want to add, like, these are going to be garlicky, and you know, diced Carolina Reaper, right? The directions are going to be preheat oil to 350, dunk your wings in the oil until cooked. Okay, remove from oil and toss in your sauce, right? Super simple. But we have to write the code in app.js to handle those ingredients, right? So we can copy the code that we wrote for ingredients to be for this second insert, right? So we're inserting a recipe, then we're inserting the ingredients. So we need to, inside this, where we're actually doing this, before we redirect to the recipe, we need to, let's turn off this console logging. Let's say, all right, great. Now that ingredients are stored, store the directions, right? So we're gonna do the same thing. So we'll do let directions query equals insert into directions recipe ID direction values question mark. All right, we're going to use that same multiple insert technique here so that we don't have to loop through them and deal with all that nightmare. All right, we need to remove the last empty element, right? Because we created this function, there's always going to be one that's empty. Okay. Perfect. So we're going to do rec.body.directions.pop. Right. That's just going to remove that last one from the array, and then we need to do let directions equals array, and then while rec.body.ingredients or excuse me directions.length. So for as long as there is another array element in here, we're going to run this loop, and we're simply going to say directions.push, and we're going to put in new recipe ID, which we got up here, new recipe ID. So that's our very first query, and then comma rec.body.directions.pop, or a shift, excuse me. We want to get the first direction first, right? So when we're building this new array, it's going to have recipe ID and then the first element, then recipe ID and then the second element, and then recipe ID and the third element. So if I have 1,000 directions, this new array will have all the, and we'll console.log this so we can see it before we submit it, right? So let's just do a console.log directions, right? Because this is what we're actually telling MySQL when we run this query. It's going to say insert into directions, recipe ID direction, values, and then this array of arrays. Okay? And then we can simply do connection.query, directions query, and then we need to put this in an array because that's how MySQL works here. And we say directions, and then function error results, right? And then when we're done here, if error console.log error throw error, okay, then we can do our redirect. So we've inserted all these things. Now we're done. These are all the things that we've been capturing in our form. So if I run this, right, this server is running, but if I submit this information that we have typed in here, we should see, we should see that directions array that we just created. So let's run this in. Perfect. So directions is ID 6, preheat oil to 350. ID 7, dunk your wings in oil until cooked. Ooh. We got a little bug here, I think. Let's Alright, let's check our database and see if we do indeed have a bug, which I think we do. Alright. Let's look at directions. Oh no, it worked perfectly. Oh, this is the oh, that's the final thing we deleted. Yeah, directions. Yeah, so this is that array. I should have probably put in console.log directions. Right. The other stuff that we're seeing is the other console.logs that we were throwing, which we so hard to navigate with big text. It's this rec body that we were showing here. All right. So you can see that we created this array that has just 11, which is our recipe ID, and the direction. So when we got these arrays, MySQL is able to insert each one of those individually in a single query for us. But now, if we look at this page, right, we see scorching wings. These wings will melt your face. 6 wings, butter, hot sauce, garlic, Carolina Reaper, and then our 3 cooking directions. Pretty cool, huh? All right, what's next? We probably need to be able to delete a recipe. Let's maybe make that next. We'll put like a little, I don't know, button or something down here on the bottom. All right, so let's make recipes deletable. Right. Recipe. I guess I don't have it open. Recipe. Oh, let's commit our code because we made something cool happen. So like finalizes new recipe form. Yes. And push. And we'll pull open recipe real quick. So this is the kind of the bottom of the page here. We want to have something that's like a button, or let's just make it an anchor, right? href equals delete recipe, and we'll do right. We've got the recipe ID here, right? So we're going to continue to use our EJS. We'll dive more into EJS today, and so we'll just put in recipe ID. And I don't think we're actually sending this to the program, so we'll say delete recipe. Right. So let's check and make sure we are indeed sending that information. Where are we at here? Slash recipe, new recipe. Down here. So we want to get this recipe ID. We want to make sure that we pass that to res render, right? So that is going to be in recipe. Yeah, so let's just recipe.id equals, or actually we want to make this recipe ID equals rec.params.recipe ID. Okay, so now we have a recipe ID field. Now we need to name it correctly. Maybe. Okay. So when we load this page, what did we do here? Recipe ID is not defined. Did I load this page? Recipe ID. Pass in recipe. Let's make this the same. Recipe ID. Recipe ID. This here? Good. Perfect. So now we have delete recipe, and you can see this says delete recipe 11, like down in the bottom left here. So when I click on this, it's going to do nothing because we don't have that route defined, but we know how to delete a record. So let's do that. So cool. Back to app. All right, delete that. All right. So we've got this is our main route. This is where we create new recipes. Let's make it right below here. And we'll say app.get delete recipe, and we'll do recipe ID function res. Okay, so this creates the route for us. So if we just did like res.send delete, right, we can now click this and see that it says delete. So we're ready to go. So we need let recipe ID equals rec.params.recipe ID. So we're going to get this value out of this URL. Okay. First, we need to delete the recipe, right? So connection.query delete from recipes where ID equals question mark. Question mark, if you remember from yesterday, what is this called? Andrew, what do we call this question mark?
I forget. I forget what it's called.
It's a placeholder for a parameterized value, right? So when we put in this question mark, it means that we're going to tell MySQL what value to put in here. If we just put in, plus recipe ID here, right? I could be nefarious. And let's actually, I'll show you. Right? Res.send recipe ID. Let's do the whole thing, right? Select, delete from recipes where ID equals, right, plus recipe ID. So this is gonna send this back, right? Delete from recipes where ID equals 11. I could be nefarious and come in here and say, update users set pass equals, let me in, right? And so MySQL is going to run both of these queries if we did this. So we want to always make sure that we don't trust user input, and we want to use parameterized queries whenever possible. When it's user input. So it's real simple for us to do this here. We just put in a question mark, and then we say recipe ID is the next argument. Okay, and then we still need to do our callback function results. And then next, okay, so we can chain this out. Delete our recipe entry. Then we need to delete our ingredients. Right, so connection.query delete from ingredients where ID equals, recipe ID equals recipe ID function error results. Okay, and then the same thing here. We want to delete our directions. We do connection.query delete from directions where recipe ID equals question mark. Recipe ID function error results. Okay, and then we probably want to do let's redirect again. So let's do res redirect slash. Okay, if we delete a recipe that we're viewing, we can't go back to that same page because that recipe no longer exists. Like if we went to recipe, this should give us some kind of weird error. 53, right? Yeah, the app crashed because that recipe doesn't exist. So we still have to handle hey, this recipe wasn't found. So let's go back to a known good one. Okay, good. Reload, good. So let's we've got water here. Tacos. This is a bad taco recipe. We can do better than this. So we're going to delete this recipe. This should delete from recipes where the ID is that. Then it's going to delete the ingredients. Then it's going to delete the directions. Okay? And perfect. It redirects us to the home page, and the recipe is gone. So let's add a new recipe and just delete me. Right? Placeholder. Good. Delete this terrible recipe. Oh. What did we do here? We died something. We killed something. Okay. So here's a problem. Because we wrote code to pop off that last result, but I didn't put any directions in, it popped off the result, and then there was no direction to pop from. So we're going to have to fix that. So we can put in some simple checking here. So we're going to have to probably do it for both. Where are we at? I went too quickly, but it helped us find a bug. So, alright. So if, right, this is our first one. So, if, here, this is a safer way. Alright, let's do this. Let ingredient input equals rec.body.ingredients. Well, let's just make this an array, right? So it's an empty array to begin with. Then if rec.body.ingredients ingredient input equals rec.body.ingredients, right? So if we don't send anything along, right, because we can, let's pull up a JavaScript console so we can show this off, right? Let R equals, right, empty array. R has a pop function, which is going to return a nothing to us if there's nothing there. So, but what we were doing before is we were trying to run pop on a value that didn't even exist, because if we don't put anything in the form, it's not going to send anything back. So we need to make sure that we are in an array first. So let's do the same thing here. So let ingredient input, and we need to change this to ingredient input, and then this, yep. Ooh, okay, so this is interesting. If there are no ingredients or there's no thing, we won't ever get to the next callback. So we're gonna have to rethink this a little bit in a minute, but let's just fix our first problem first. So we'll say let direction input equals array. Then we say if rec.body.directions direction input equals rec.body.directions, and then we can change that there as well. Direction input, and we'll do the same thing here. Direction input and direction input. And this needs to be ingredient input and ingredient input. Okay. And so let's simply, all right, we're here. ASDF, ASDF, ASDF. All right, let's. It still broke. Let's see. Did it tell us why it broke? App crashed. You have an error in your SQL syntax. Oh, because we tried to insert an empty array. Yeah, so insert into direction. So we'll have to check that as well. We're going to have to put in some more error checking in here for sure. But let's keep checking along. Alright, cool. Alright, our server is back. ASDF, let's put in some directions. We know this is bad anyway. So, save a new recipe, right? Delete me, this is a terrible recipe. We can see it in here, right? We got a couple in here. So, delete me. Yep, that one's gone. That one's gone. And then this one's gone. So we're like onto something pretty good here. Alright. We probably want to make it so that this prompts us here, so that we don't just delete things on accident. I click this button and delete something good. So let's do that on our client side. What do we call this? Delete me. That's a new recipe. Right here. So we'll come in here and we can do ID equals delete recipe, and then go back to our JavaScript and we say when the page is loaded, if document.getElement by ID delete recipe. Yep, we want to do document.getElement by ID delete recipe. Add event listener. Click, and we need to we need an event. The first thing we need to do is event.prevent default, so that it does not go to the thing regardless. And then we just say return confirm, are you sure you want to delete this recipe? Right? This should work. So we reload the page, delete. If we click cancel, it goes nowhere. If we click cancel now, it still goes nowhere. Oh, okay, here's what we gotta do. instead of prevent default, we want to say if confirm. If confirm. Yep. Yep. Delete is approved. Else event.prevent default. So we're stopping the browser's default navigation when we, if we click cancel, it goes nowhere. If we click OK, it deletes IceCube. Everybody tracking? All right, it is 5:53. We've been going at this for about an hour now. Let's take a break and come back at like 6:10. Cool. All right. So we've got it to a pretty good state. We can view recipes. These are all being pulled from the database. We can create new recipes. Any number of ingredients can pop up here. All right. Let's maybe make a search next. I think we got really like three major things left to do. A, search. B, we want to be able to edit recipes, so we can be like, this tastes better with garlic, or I need to change my recipe. And then we probably want to think about how we're going to handle account management and users, right? So I want my recipes to be my recipes. Maybe I want to share them, but maybe I want to be private. We don't know any of those answers yet, but we need to figure out a way to let us log in, and then we'll need to be able to log out. Okay, so let's tackle search. Let's start with a new. Right, we have a recipe list. Maybe let's start from here. We're going to take our index page because it's got a pretty good looking template, and we'll just make a new page. Search.ejs. Okay. And so right in here, right, we'll say search results. Okay. Oh. Right. And recipes matching. We'll just put in a placeholder here for ourselves, and it'll be like put it in quotes, and we'll say query. And we're going to make a variable called query, so that when we type in like search and we say like meat, right? It's going to give us everything that matches meat, and we're going to put this as the we'll do it like this: query equals meat. Okay. So this is a good starting place. So we'll come into here and we will make our. Let's just copy this app.get, right? And we'll say search route. Okay, and we just need to change this to search. All right, cool. And let's just test to see if this is even working, right? We've got titles in here, so we can say where title equals, or title like. We'll use the percent, question mark, percent. Okay. Remember that these percents are wildcards, so just as a very first cheat pass at searching in the database, we're going to say where the title is like or contains whatever word we pass in here, and we don't know what the here is yet, so we're going to need to pass in some query search parameter. Okay. So let's get we need to get a search parameter. So let's just say let search parameter equals what do we have, wing, right? So it's going to say select ID title from recipes where title like wing, somewhere in here. Okay. And we need to render search, not index. Okay. So if we search, what are our let's say search water, right? We should find something. Finds an empty array. Why does it find an empty array? Interesting. Select star. Let's run this query in our browser, in our query browser, and we'll just put in wing and see what happens. We should get hot wings, scorching wings. It should return 2. So let's console.log results there. We have our search route. And it's giving us an empty array. Well, that's interesting. Maybe it doesn't like the... Here, let's do this. Like that. And we'll come in here and say this. Maybe because it's a variable, it doesn't need... Okay, no. Oh, okay. Yep, perfect. So now we're at a good stopping point, right? So we put in our search template, we put in the query here, but we didn't pass that in our render variable. Right, so over here where we're sending along recipes, we just need that value. So we'll say query, and then we'll put in wing. Right. So now if we reload this page, yeah, great. Recipes matching wing. So we're like 80% of the way there already. So let's we want to get, if we pass in a query parameter, like query equals whatever, right? We want to have that value be included in our database query. So let's check, let's console.log rec. And I think it's probably like rec.params. So let's do this. Yeah. Rec.params did not do anything. So let's just console.log the entire request and see if it... We know we've got that query parameter in here somewhere. So what did we search for? Whatever. Query. Okay, it's query. So rec.query has the information we want. So we can do rec.query, and let's take a look at that object value. Yeah, so it's an object that has all of those things, right? If we had multiple in here, if we had like and title equals true, right? You can see this creates an object for us where we get each one of these as a key value pair. So query equals whatever, and title equals true. So we let's make this like we want it to be search, and then we'll maybe do query equals whatever. So that's good. So we want to do let search parameter equals, and we can just do percent. And we'll do $, rec.query. And then we put another percent here at the end. And then, right, we can come in here and say our query that we're passing to our template is rec.query. So now, yeah, it's searching for whatever. We can search for wing. We can search for water. Gives us water and spicy water. That's pretty good. Kind of what jumps to mind is, we probably want like the description, right? Because we want to have our search results page have a little bit more information here. So not just the ID and the title. Let's come through here and say, all right, that's the link to the thing, and then we come in here and say p. We'll put in equals recipe list I dot description /p. If we reload the page, yeah, perfect. So we're there. Now the problem is this is probably, for the sake of doing this kind of quickly, let's do it correctly. Let's open up CSS and let's call this like search results. And then in our CSS we'll say search results LIP, and we will put in font size, and we'll maybe do like 0.7 EM, so it's smaller. That's too small. 0.8. Oh, that's better. And we'll maybe do margin 0. Yeah, that's much better. And then we'll do margin bottom, like 5px, right? So we'll have a little bit of spacing between search results. That's pretty good. I think I'd like to see search results as like an ordered list, so we're going to change that to an OL. Okay, and now we can see, hey, here's your search results, water and spicy water. We probably also want to have, let's put in like a count of how many results we found. So we can do recipe list dot length recipes matching, right? So it'll say 2 recipes matching water. And then I don't think I want this H2 in here. I'm gonna harshen my vibe. 2 recipes matching water. That's pretty good. We built searching. So the other thing that's kind of missing is I probably want a search input. So let's do input type equals, what is the name of this? Type equals text. And we'll put in name equals query. We need to wrap this in a form. Form action equals search. And method equals get. Right, slash form. And we don't necessarily need a submit button because users are probably smart enough to like put some information in the search box and hit enter, which will submit the form as well. And let's just say we're going to put in the value equals what do we call it? Query. Perfect. So we want this to be a little bit. Let's add some line breaks here. And let us make this bigger. Let's say size equals. We've been using 60 everywhere else. Let's keep that trend going. Great. So water, and if I put it here and I say wing, right, and hit enter, great. It found the wing. What is something else we did? Like let's try something that doesn't exist. 0 recipes matching ASDF. Nice. Fancy. Cool. So this kind of makes sense to me. Obviously, there's a problem here. If I search for spicy, right? It says 1 recipes matching spicy, so we're probably gonna have to do something about that, right? If we want to be grammatically correct. So what we can do here is we can just do right. So we're going to go into EJS mode. That will let us write JavaScript here. And we can say simply recipe list dot length is greater than or equals 1. We're going to return nothing. Otherwise, we're going to return S. Okay, this is like that ternary operator. You guys remember that from our Boolean? Where we say this criteria, if it's true, after the question mark, we're going to do this. Otherwise, we're going to do this. So now, that says 1 recipe matching spicy. And we can put wings, 2 recipes, and it puts the S in. This kind of pattern, and I'm going to paste this into our Slack here. You're going to do this kind of thing all the time when you're dealing with dynamic data. Okay. So just get kind of used to this. It's like a recipe, right? Whenever you need to like make something an S or not an S based on the plurality, it's almost always going to be just this little quick one-liner where you say, if there's 1, do nothing. If there's 0 or more, do S. Cool. So things that jump to mind, right? If we click on hot wings, right? That's a bad example. Let's find spicy water, right? If I wanted to find the word kick in here, which is in our description, we're gonna have to make this won't find it, right? If I do search and I do kick, right? 0 recipes matching kicks. We are only looking in the title. So let's make this a little bit more intelligent, or description like question mark, and we'll try just passing in search parameter again. I think this has to be an array now, right? So search parameter, and now, yeah, perfect. We found water, but with a kick. So we're looking in the description. Okay, so we're getting closer. This is a pretty good little search engine here. But what if I wanted to find the word butter? Like, what has butter? Butter. Okay, we're gonna have to search in ingredients. Now is where our SQL is gonna get super fun for us, right? We've got a database that has information. We need to join the recipe table, which we're searching with the information. So here's like, we'll show this off, right? So like butter. So this is our current query. Butter. And this is going to find nothing because none of those recipes have butter or butter in the description, in the title, or description or title. But we do have it in our ingredients. So if we did select star from ingredients, where ingredient like butter, right? There are 2 recipes that use butter, the spicy wings and the regular wings. So we need to join these 2 tables together. We want to say, give me any recipe that has something from the title, the description, or the ingredient list that says butter. So how can we do that, right? We have a recipe ID here that links to our recipe. So let's we know we can join things. We can do select star from let's do select ID recipe.id recipe.title and we'll do ingredients.ingredient from recipes. Does anyone remember, like, I want to join something in to the left? How would I do that? We briefly looked at it this week. So if you don't know the answer, that's fine too.
Join something to what again?
So I'm searching in recipes, but I need information that also comes from the ingredients table. So I need to join these together. And it kind of gives away the answer, right? We got a couple different join types. But as I mentioned yesterday, I almost always reach for left join first. So I'm going to do left join ingredients. And then I want to join the recipes table, which has an ID, with the ingredients table on this ID column. So on ingredients, let's see, recipe.id equals ingredients.recipe ID. Right? So those are the 2 columns that are going to be the same. And if I just did this, I ran this right now, it's going to give me...
the things I could do for Wi-Fi.
I muted you, Gregory. Recipes.id. Oh, I typoed. Right? I put recipe here instead of recipes. The name of the table is recipes. So if I run this, you can see these are all of the ingredients that match a recipe. And if there's any recipes that don't have any ingredients, those show up as null. So you can see this duplicates, right? But we're just looking for anything that matches. So what we can do is we can use the group by clause. Group by says, if I've got multiple of the thing, just smush them all together. Give me just one record. We're just trying to get any recipe that has an ingredient. Group by, and we'll say group by recipes.id. Right? So now we should only get, we get 1, 5, 5, 10, and 10, and 11. Right? So that's our group. This is our group by clause. So we've joined 2 tables together, and so now let's try. Right? We can search on these. Right? So we can say where. Right? So So before our group by, let's actually pretty this up. Yeah, let's do that. All right. So before our group by, we can say where recipes dot title like butter, or recipes dot description like butter. Right? So let's just run this to see what it does. Right? Let's take out the group by here. Right? That's going to give us nothing. But if we did wing, right? That's going to give us just our hot wings. Let's put our group by back in. Group by recipes.id. So we only get 2 results instead of 6. Okay, but we're searching for butter, and we know that butter exists in our ingredients. So now that we've joined these together, we should be able to do ingredient like butter. Same syntax, right? And if we run this now, we are finding all of those, right? When we had this out, we found nothing. But now that we've added this in here to the table we joined it to, we are finding the 2 recipes that use this this ingredient. So let's add this into our code because it's really simple to do this, right? So I'm going to take this out because our query is getting kind of crazy now, and we're going to put this into a variable. So we're going to say let search query equals. I'm going to make this a just like this. Got an extra quote here. And I really like to make this like a separate line, right? So I'll say select. I'm going to make this look real nice for ourselves. Select. Wait, what? What did I do? Select. Let's turn this into a. Cool. So select ID title description from recipes, and then we know we need to. Oh, come on. Come on now. Let's move this down a bit. We're gonna left join ingredients on recipes.id equals ingredients.recipe ID. Okay, so now we got 2 tables in here. So we need to do recipe.id, recipes.title, recipes.description. And I don't need to get the ingredients. I just want to be able to search on them. So I don't need to add it to my columns here. Where recipes.id equals ingredients.id, recipes description, or ingredients.ingredient like question mark. Right. These are our like where clauses here. So what I like to do is just or so this is a good looking syntax here. Group by what are we doing? Recipes.id. Right. So we only want one result per recipe. Right. Even if we find 10 ingredients, if there was 10 things in there that said butter, we don't need 10 of them. So we need to group by these. Okay. Perfect. Well, yeah, good. App crashed. What? Unexpected token. Oh, because I forgot to put the query in. So query, search query, and then because I have 3 question marks, 3 placeholders, I need to add search parameter again. Search parameter. Okay. So now, if I save this, right, it's running. Now we find those 2 recipes, and we're searching in the description, the title, and the ingredients. So if I type wing in here, right, we're gonna find those 2. If I type in water, right, we got water and spicy water. Do we have any other, like, what do we have in here? Ingredients. So let's just say rice, right? That's our only thing that has rice. We find our one thing that has rice. Oh, it's in the title too. So let's just say onion. Onion, right? It finds our recipe that has an ingredient in it. Right? This is like really, really basic searching. There's a lot of cool things we can do if we wanted to get more complex or find like onion versus onions, right? That would be like word stemming. But this is like a good enough for like an easy prototype without bringing a lot of complexity into our app. And I'm going to be honest, like if I was going to do anything more complicated with searching, I'd probably go start looking for a node package that does searching quite a bit better. Like this is the basic, like easiest version of MySQL searching. MySQL also has, when we're dealing with large amounts of text, they have their own search syntax that if you wanted to look at it, like if you did contains or whatever, it searches, they do like a MySQL full text searching, right? And it also gives us like match. So the match function, gosh, their documentation's the worst. Anyway. Yeah. So like select star from table where match against, and then you can tell it natural language mode, or it does some extra stuff, and it will rank these based on how closely it found those results or how many times it appeared in the text. So there are other ways to do this in MySQL as well. But this is like the short and sweet version that gets you 90% of the way most of the time. Like, nobody's going to this recipe website and being like, man, I wish it had better searching. Like, they're probably just in here being like, what uses garlic? Scorching links do. Right? So we built a search engine in 20 lines of code and a template. So we got searching. I guess let's tackle editing next, and then we can move on to something else. All right, so I have this water recipe. I want to be able to edit. We gave ourselves a delete function. Let's do the same thing, but give ourselves an edit page. All right, so we got a delete recipe. Let's put in another thing down here that says edit recipe, and we'll give it a path of edit recipe. Right. And I'm going to put a little pipe here so that they're separated in the HTML. Right. So if we look at this now, we can see edit and delete. Cool. This one prompts us. Make sure that we want to delete it first, but edit doesn't need to. So we need to make an edit recipe page. Now the cool thing is we already have a page that is really, really close to what we want, right? It's the new recipe page. So we're just going to copy this and paste it somewhere in here. Paste. And we're going to rename this edit recipe. Maybe we just want to call it edit. Yeah, we'll stick with our naming convention. Edit recipe. So we'll say edit recipe as our title. And we'll change this to edit recipe. Our form, we still want it to post, but we want it to post to itself. Edit recipe. Okay? And then the problem is we want all of the form fields. If we reload this, we have to define a path first. So let's do to edit recipe. Edit and edit. Right? So we down here? Cannot get edit recipe 3. Oh, we need to put in recipe ID, right? Because we're passing in /3. So edit recipe. This works now. We want to get when we load this page, we want to get all of the values from recipe 3 and put them all in here. So let's tackle that next. Okay. So when we get here, right, we need to fetch current recipe information from database, then render page. Okay, so that part's done, right? But we need to pass in recipe. Okay, so I think we can probably, yeah, let's steal all of this from here, right? We've got all the, yeah, this code is correct. So we want to do all of this up to here, right? This code is good. So this gives us a, right? We probably want to do replace this as a function because we're using it twice. I'm going to copy this whole thing, including that. Right? We want this in here. Edit recipe. So we want this in here. And we know we want to replace this, but we're going to do res render recipe like that. So all that's changed is we're sending this data that we've pulled from the database to a different page. So when we're on edit recipe here, right, we're fetching all that information and then we're going to send it to this page. So we need to add it to a page. So we've got a recipe ID, ingredients, directions, all those things. So let's start at the top, and we'll just put this in here. Value equals, right, percent equals, and we'll put in what's the title? Is that what it's called? Yeah, perfect. And then same here, right? Value equals image. And then for text areas, remember they don't have a value attribute. We put it inside of the thing. So we'll say description. Okay. And then ingredients. We're gonna have to do something special with ingredients because that's an array. So we're gonna have to loop through those. But let's just verify this works. Yeah, water. Here's the image. Here's the description. We're like super close now. And then for the form method post, we're doing edit recipe here. We want this to be edit recipe, and then we want to put in the recipe ID. So we'll do recipe ID. Is that how we called it? Yeah, recipe ID. Perfect. Okay, so let's. We've already looped in EJS before, right? So the syntax to do this is, percent, right, and then percent, because anything we put in between these two tags is just regular JavaScript. So we can do for let I equals 0, I is less than ingredients dot length I plus plus. Okay, and then we do the same thing at the bottom, right? We put a squiggly bracket, but the problem is we don't want each of these to have the same ID. Maybe we wanted to have. Well, we don't want to have an ID at all. But what we do want to do is leave room at the bottom for our magic JavaScript. Remember, we wrote this code. We want to have it so that if I need to add more ingredients, I need my first ingredient to exist so that I can add new ones. And we need this to say value equals ingredients I dot ingredient, right? Is that what it's in there as? I believe so. Let's just see if this works. Did not. What is the name of our ingredients? Ingredients is results. Which is, because I'm on a, I picked a recipe that does not have any ingredients. Perfect. So 6 wings, butter, hot sauce, garlic, Carolina Reaper. If I need to add new stuff, right, like that is all working still. So we got that for free. That's good. All right, and now let's go to, we need to do the same thing but for directions. So let's just copy this. Okay. We'll just bloop. But we need to change this to directions dot length. And then let's copy this, our little closing bracket. Okay. Too many. And then let's put in the directions. And we'll take out the ID. And then we'll put in a value. Value equals directions I direction. Okay, so if we load this page now, yeah, perfect. We got all of our stuff here. Now we need to change the button title. This needs to say save recipe changes. Okay. Perfect. And now when we submit this, this is gonna fail because we haven't written a post route yet, but we can build that fairly easily as well. So, yeah. So we just pretty much want to copy this page to edit recipe, and then app.post. Right, so it's the same route. We're doing edit recipe, but with the ID at the end, and when we post to it, we want it to update. So we have all of the values. Let's just verify res.send. Let's just do this. Free. So yeah, we're getting all of our stuff. I'm gonna go and actually get a really nice browser extension called JSON. There's a marketplace, right? How do I get to the tools? Oh, here we go. Open Chrome Web Store. There's a really cool browser extension called JSON View that will give you a really nice way to view JSON. Right, cool. So now it's there, and when I reload our page, now we get a nicely formatted JSON object that we can look at here. So we have our ingredients. That's all the same. Directions. Okay, so this is an array. So we want to do. All right. We need to update the content, right? So I'll leave this there for now. So let's say, right, update recipe info, update ingredients list, update directions. All right, so those are the 3 tables we need to update. So who wants to walk me through updating the recipe info? That's the easy one. What would I do here? And I'll make a query first. Let update query equals. What query do I write to update a record? Nobody's making eye contact. How suspicious. I know Estrella knows the answer, and she chuckled at my joke, so you're picked. Walk me through an update.
I know we would start with update.
Perfect. That's 90% of the way there. What comes after the word update? Gregory.
Would it be the database of what you updating?
The table, yes. So recipes. Okay, what comes next?
The recipe you're trying to update?
That goes to the end.
No,
What comes first?
I want to say the value set, like set something.
Set. Perfect. Yeah, you almost went down the insert route. So yeah, update, then the table name, then set, and then value equals, or column equals value, comma, column equals value, column equals value, on and on.
The
So,
where ID and something.
yeah. So update recipes set, and we're going to do title equals question mark, image equals question mark, description equals question mark, where ID equals question mark. All right, so we're going to pass in 4 parameters: the title that the user put in, the image the user put in, the description the user put in, and the ID of the recipe from the URL. So we're gonna we need to get that first. So let's do let recipe ID equals rec.params.recipe ID, right? Because we get this from our little Magic Express route handler here. All right, so we've got our update query. The query looks correct. How do I make this query happen in our database? Andrew.
I'm not sure what you mean. Like,
So what JavaScript do I write here to actually make this query, run this query in the database?
you're going to res dot.
Not res. Res is our response
Oh.
object. we have an object for our connection to the database?
Connect.
Connect or connection?
Connection dot query.
Okay. What goes first? It's telling us right here on our stupid thingy.
Query
Update query. Right, that's
or
the name of
update.
Okay, what comes after that? I've got.
Uh,
I need to pass in parameters, right? I got 4 question marks.
So update query. Update query. You do that 4 times, or
No. So comes next is an array of parameters. So however many question marks I have here, I need to send in 4. In this case 4 variables that have the value we're updating. Because when this runs this query, it's going to say set title, and then it's going to swap out this first question mark with the first element of the parameters array. So we're going to put an array here, right? And the first value is rec.body.title, right? That comes from the form.
okay,
The next
and then
one
right dot body.
Dot image rec.body.description, and then the last one, right? Title, image, description is ID, which we have as recipe ID. Recipe ID. Okay. Then what comes next after our parameters?
The result.
Let's put this in here. Let's do let update frames equals update frames. Okay, so what goes next?
Our result.
The third argument to this function is
a function.
Is a function. Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll do function. The first argument there is
With error
and then results.
and results. Okay.
So it's always query first, then either a function or an array of parameters, unless you're only doing one, right? So this is the one that's kind of tricky. If you're doing multiple, it has to be an array. If we're just saying, select star, where's recipe, for example? We have it right above it, right? So, right, when we do just one single placeholder, then all we have to do is it's not an array. Okay, so then our callback function is last, right? So, so we know that JavaScript in general is asynchronous, so we have to put all of our next queries after this query is completed, right? We want to make sure that we update the recipe first, then we can update the other thing, then we can update the other thing, and then finally we're going to send the response back, right? So everything that we do is going to be nested inside of these callback functions. So, all right, if we do this, right, we want to always, it's just a really good habit to say if error, right, like console.error, error, and then we'll throw errors so it stops execute. If we do this throw, this is it's going to stop everything below it. Okay. So next we need to update the ingredients list. How are we going to do that? But let's just make sure we can actually do this update, right? So these wings might melt your face, right? Great. And if I click save recipe, right, these wings might melt your face. That's coming back to us. But if I go back to this page now and I reload it, right, it did actually save that data, right? These wings might melt your face. So it did the update. We're good there. But now I need right, we need to update the ingredients list. Now this is an array, so we probably want to be creative here. We probably want to delete the ingredients that exist already and then reinsert them. So I might actually just come in here and grab the code we have before, right? Insert into ingredients values this. We want to probably just copy all of this stuff, right? Everything up to here, because that was good code before. So we will. Let's make all this line up. Okay. So when we've successfully updated the recipe, we're gonna right. We've successfully updated the recipe. We're gonna make a new query that is insert into ingredients these things. But we first need to delete, right? So first, delete the current ingredients. So we need to do connection.query delete from ingredients where recipe ID equals question mark. Now we're going to pass in, what do we call it? Recipe ID, recipe ID, and then function error result. Okay, so now we've deleted all the previous recipes. Inside here, we need to insert the recipes. So this is where we'll do this. Just copy that. Put that in there. Okay. So we're going to insert, we deleted all the previous ingredients. Now we're going to insert the ingredients again. And we're going to do that by looping through that array. And this one needs to just say recipe ID. And so we're going to send an array of ingredients to this query, because we have a placeholder here. We're going to do an array of arrays. So all those recipes are going to be reinserted. So once that's done, now we need to do the exact same thing, where we're going to delete the directions and recreate the directions. So in here, we'll do connection. Let's give ourselves a delete the directions, reinsert the new directions. Okay. So we'll say connection dot query delete from directions where direction recipe ID equals question mark, recipe ID, and then function error results. Okay, and then reinsert the new directions. And then finally, after all this is done, that's when we can that's when we can send out our data to our database. Okay, so let's just quickly copy the code from down here. Right, we got directions, query. Right, this is all good. Right, so insert into directions, same thing. We're making an array of directions. We're going to pop off that empty one at the end. Let's take this out so we don't console.log all over the place. And then this finally, everything is done. We can send our stuff back. But we probably want to redirect to /recipe and then plus recipe ID. We need to change this to recipe ID, right? So, if I reload this page right now, it's going to confirm the form resubmission, and it redirects us to that page. So let's just verify that everything works. So I'm going to come in here. Oh, interesting. What do we have? Oh, neat. Cool. Habanero, Carolina. Let's do ghost pepper, and then let's eat and melt your face. Right. So we've added some more directions. Let's just make sure these wings will definitely melt your face. Scorching face melting wings. Right? So that's gonna be our new name. And if we save recipe changes here, you can see that all of those updates happened, and we changed the directions and we changed the ingredients. So this is kind of, and I think it was Leah that was asking earlier, like, this is how crazy some of these nested callback functions get, where it's like you got to make a thing happen, and then inside the callback of that thing, make another thing happen. You're gonna, we're like 6 functions deep here because we have to delete. Right, we're first querying. We're first updating the recipe, then we're deleting all the ingredients. When that's done, then we're going to insert all the ingredients. When that's done, then we're going to delete all the directions. When that's done, we're going to insert into the directions. This gets crazy, right? Especially as you have more and more complex applications. So there are better ways to do this, and we'll explore some of that whenever it comes up. But I personally like this kind of flow, where it's like, okay, when this thing is done, I'm gonna do a callback, and it's gonna come here and it's gonna operate on my information. Cool. All right, it is 7:02. Probably a good time for a break. We built a really cool recipe website. When we come back, we're going to spend more time building EJS templated websites. We're going to start a brand new one from scratch and start focusing more on the templating side. And then we'll continue practicing with databases whenever it comes out. Okay? I'm going to check all this stuff in. Functioning recipe website. Cool. Yes, and push. So it is 7:02. Let's come back at 7:20. And we'll see you in a bit. Start the recording. Cool. So we built a functional database-driven website. Obviously, there's a bunch of bugs in here, and we might come back to this later on and tidy it up. But I really want to spend quite a bit more time diving into EJS and focusing on templating engines, because templating engines, as you can see, give us a ton of power and flexibility in making dynamic websites with JavaScript. So let's stop this program, and we're going to create a new project. So I will start with GitHub. I'm going to create a new repository, and I'm going to call this EJS. And I'm going to hopefully go slow enough. I'd like everyone to follow along so that we can all at least have a reference copy of a project that we can work with. So stop me if I'm going too quickly. I'm definitely going to breeze through the first parts pretty quickly. So I'm going to call this EJS. I'm going to give it a description while you guys get pulled up and ready to go.
I missed the first part of what you said, like the last 30 seconds.
Your headphones always stop because 15 minutes is too long of a break for Bluetooth to keep connected.
I don't know.
Cool. We built a recipe website, Andrew, and we're gonna definitely come back to it because we got bugs and we want to probably add user management stuff. But for now, we're gonna pivot a little bit and dive deeper into EJS. So that's a templating engine. We've been using it in the previous project, but I want to just explore it together with you guys, because in almost every project you build, you're gonna probably in JavaScript you're gonna use some kind of templating engine, whether it's EJS or Handlebars or Pug. Simple website. So we're gonna build one together, and I'd like you to. I'm gonna try and go slowly enough so you guys can follow along, because I think it's important to get your fingers comfortable typing in the commands that we're gonna use to build some of this stuff. So simple website,
Okay.
EJS template. I'm going to add a README and a getIgnore for node. And I'm going to create my repository. So I don't need my database up anymore. We're not going to database anything right now. I'm going to copy my Git repo address, and I'm going to say git clone and put in my address. Okay. Inside that new repository, EJS, I'm going to run npm init. And it's going to be version 1, yes. Simple EJS based Express app. Index.js is fine as an entry point. No test command. Perfect. And then author name. Yep, this is all good. Okay, so we're kind of caught up. I'm going to close. Let's open this up. Make a new window. Open folder. EJS. So we're all right here. I'm going to pull up a terminal. I'm going to make it bash for myself. And perfect. We're all caught up. So I'm going to show you how I would set up a new project like this. And so what the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do npm install nodemon, and I'm going to put save-dev. Right, I want nodemon to exist for me on my local computer for the development version of this program. Okay? Perfect. So that's installed now. We have nodemon version 2. And then, yeah, that's good enough to go. I'm also going to make a start script for myself. Right? So right now we have, if I run npm test, npm run test, right? It's doing this echo no test specified and exit 1, right? That's that. So I can put in another script in here. I'm going to say dev, and I'm going to say nodemon index.js. So I'm going to run my program from now on with nodemon, npm run dev. Is everyone kind of caught up to this?
I was going to say, can you pause for a split second? What was that? You said that npm install was called nodemon?
Yeah, npm install nodemon stands for node monitor.
And then you said in the package JSON you wanted to do what? Under scripts?
Yeah, in package JSON, we're going to put a comma after test, and we're going to put in a new entry that says dev, and the value in that string is nodemon index.js, which I believe is just running.
Good.
Okay, so now we can run our program with npm run dev. So this is going to keep this process running, and anytime we change our source code, it's going to reload it for us. So we can make some changes, test, and then look at what happens on the other side. So we can come in here and say console.log hello, right? And as soon as I hit Control S here, or Command S for you, Andrew, you can see that it logs hello once, and then nodemon tells us, hey, the script has ended. It's going to wait for changes, and then it's going to restart again, right? So if I put in another line here, and I put in world, I run S, now it says hello world, and it exited again. This is perfect. This lets us quickly and efficiently iterate as we build a program. So we want to build an EJS-based program. So EJS is a templating language that is for it lets us just modify text so that we can put JavaScript variables and loops and things inside of our HTML in a way that is really clean and easy to work with. So we're going to start with, just like everything else, we're going to say const express equals require express. Okay. And then we're going to say const app equals require, express. We're going to call that function. It's going to give us an app to do. And then we're going to do app.listen. And we're going to run this on port 8080. Okay, and it's telling us it crashed. Nodemon has crashed because the module wasn't found. So we need to npm install express. So now when we run npm run dev, it's going to sit there and it's going to listen on port 8080. And if we go to our browser, we just say localhost 8080, it's going to tell us cannot get / because we have not defined any routes yet for this. So we have 3 lines of code, one to bring in express, one to create an Express app, and then one to tell the app to listen. That's where we're at right now. Everybody caught up? Let me know when you're ready to go.
How do we exit out of the node one?
For you, it's probably Control C. It's Control C for everybody, I believe. But sometimes
Okay.
Macs, depending on what terminal client you're using, sometimes it's Command C, so it just depends. But Control C, I think. Right. Is everybody kind of at this stage? We have an app running and it's...
Yep.
Cool. All right. So EJS is a node package, but it's also built as a node package to understand that it needs to exist inside the context of Express. So we could come in here and we could say const EJS equals require EJS, and we could use it on its own, but we are not going to have to do that. We're going to tell Express to use EJS as an engine. Right? So we're going to say, we are going to say app.set, and that's a function, and it takes two parameters. The first one is view engine, and the second parameter is EJS. So this is going to set a value in Express, and it's going to tell it, hey, I want to use the node package EJS to be my view engine. Okay, and so if I Control S this, it should die if I go to this page, I think, because we still don't have a route for this. All right, so it didn't die. That's interesting. What we're going to do, let's define a route first, and we're going to say app.get/, and this is it takes a function rec and res, and we're just going to just to verify that we're kind of in the right spot, we're going to say res.send hello, right? Just a string hello. And if I reload this page, why did it not load? Oh. Yeah, I'm having conflict. Let's see. Probably because we need a JSON. Let me test something out here. Okay, I must not have reloaded the page. Let's do res.send load. Yeah, perfect. Okay. But what we have now is we've been using res.send, and we've been using res.json, and we've also learned about res.redirect, which will send us to a different route. But what we can do here is we can say, hey, when I get to this, EJS lets us use templates. So we can say res.render index. Okay. And what this will fail because this file doesn't exist, but it's going to tell us, hopefully, what is wrong. It's going to say, cannot find module EJS. So we have to turn off our server with Control C down in our console and do npm install EJS. Oh, shoot. I picked a terrible name for this. You can't darn it. All right. We're going to pivot slightly. We're going to come into our package JSON, and we're going to change the name of this package to EJS-example. Okay, so I went to package JSON, I changed the name to EJS example, and hopefully now this will let us install. We might have to redo our steps. Perfect. So if we change the name, so Node is telling us we tried to install a package with the same name as the package I'm in, which causes npm to break. I should have thought of that. That's silly. So we went to our package JSON. All you got to do is change the name of your current package. So we're going to do this. This is now the EJS example app. And we ran npm install EJS. So now, when we run our server again, npm run dev, and I hit enter, the server is running. And if we reload this page, it's going to give us a different error. And it's going to say, failed to look up view index in views directory, and it gives us where it thinks that views directory is supposed to be. So it's expecting a folder in here called views. Okay, and in that folder, it is expecting to find a view called index. So we can make a file in here and call it index.ejs, and we're going to just simply put in, hello world. Right? Restart the server. Let's put in some HTML. Oh, it was working. I need to hit refresh. EJS template. H1. So I made a quick little HTML template. Yes, template. Example. I put in a title for this document. I put it in H1 just so we know we're looking at the right page, and we can indeed see that our source code that is outputted is exactly what we'd expect. Okay? So back to our code, right? So res.render, when we do res.render, the first value that we pass to this function is the name of the view to load, right? So if we did a new file in here and we said page2.ejs, right? And I put in something in here like hello from page 2. And then I come in here, if I was to change this to page 2, okay, and I reload this page, now it's going to say hello from page 2. So whatever we put in and in render, it's going to load that file from the views folder. And we change this back to index. Okay. And so there's our template example. So what makes EJS so powerful is that we can embed JavaScript directly in our page. So if I was to come in here and put %, and I could put just 10 plus 5%, like that. So I put less than bracket, %, and then a dash. This says whatever code is in here, I want to output it straight to the screen. Okay. So if I save this now and I reload the page, you can see that it runs this as JavaScript and outputs it to the screen. So this is one way of doing tags. Go ahead, Andrew.
I'm just lagging behind. I'm not getting that up on my.
Okay. Why don't you share your screen? We'll take a look. Everybody needs. Do you have 2 monitors?
I do.
Nice. 2 monitors helps quite a bit for this kind of thing. All right. I see your code. Res.render index. You have an index folder. Yeah. And what's in index.ejs? Okay.
So
So just put some stuff in there. Hello. Yep. And then make sure you save both of those files because index.js has changed as well. Okay. And then if you load your page.
I need to restart the.
Nope, it already restarted itself. That's the cool thing about Node Monitor. It
Okay.
checks for
Cool.
changes. Yep.
Okay. I just don't have any content in there. Sorry.
Yep. So now, Andrew, while you're there, put a line under your H1 and put in less than % dash, and then put in 10 plus 5 or some number, right? Any valid JavaScript, it's going to output it here. Right? Oh, 10 plus 5. Yeah. And then you close the tag with a % greater than sign.
No dash.
Nope. You could put a dash there. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But if you... Yep, and then if you look at your page, it's to say 15 there, right?
Okay.
Cool.
Gotcha.
I'm going to take over.
Cool.
All right. Cool. So, we can do anything we want to. Really, I want you to, when you're thinking of EJS, which is specific to this templating language only, anything that goes inside a %, like a % tag like this, where it's, we've been learning HTML tags that go between angle brackets like this. EJS's is always angle bracket %, and then it closes with angle bracket %. So we've learned it. So this dash puts content on the page. Okay, this. So if we put in hello, right, a string, and I reload our page, wherever it went. Right, you can see it says 15 hello. And we can do regular JavaScript here. I can do a plus sign, and I can say hello world. Right? So this is valid JavaScript. And we can see it says hello world. The dash says output whatever's inside of this directly in place. Like, so just think of this as like it's being substituted in line right here on the spot. Now, other things you can do with this, right, is we could put $% if you don't put a dash or you don't put one of those tags, it's going to run the code, but it's going to do nothing, right? So if I put 10 plus 5 here, right, it's going to run 10 plus 5. So 15 exists somewhere, but it's not displaying on our screen. So let's try console.log here and see what happens. Okay. Nothing happened. Cool. So now we know. But we could, when we do it without like a dash or an equal sign, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. So the other problem is if I do % and a dash and I put in a string that says like script, alert hello. Let's do hello script. Okay. And then I put my % sign. When I load this page, it's going to execute that JavaScript. Right, so the dash here, when we do the %dash, does not escape the output. So this is one of the things we've been talking about do not trust your user input ever. This %dash version is only good for stuff that you are 100% confident you know the results of. Like if you want HTML to go on your page, you should use that. If you want to escape this and be safe so that no users can exploit your website, you're going to use the %= format. And if we run this now, you can see that it changes those angle brackets so that HTML thinks, I want to actually display these as angle brackets and not try to render it. Okay, so this like protects us. So just to like double, like this one does not escape and this one does escape. So $sign, %= escapes the output, and the other one just puts it in there and hopes that you've not done anything bad. Okay. Now, let's do %, right? Let's give ourselves an EJS tag. What you're going to usually use the ones that don't have a dash or an equal sign is when you want to like do some control structures. So if I wanted to say if true, and I put a curly bracket, I can write a whole bunch of code in here, and I can close it, right? So this is evaluated only if this JavaScript is true. So I can put in like H2, this is neat, H2. Right? This is neat, pops in. If I change this to false, it disappears. So we've just added something that will show up sometimes. So we could do stuff in the real world where it's like, if logged in. Right. We wrap the bottom with that as well. H3, you are logged in as % logged in. Okay. Go ahead, Leah.
So what's the difference between doing this and just doing the script tag in normal HTML?
So this is changing the output. When the server, when a user goes to one of your websites, they are requesting a resource. So they're saying, give me the index page, or give me the recipes page, or any page they're asking for. The server is responding with HTML. They're saying, here is the document you requested. We are templating the document that they've requested so that we get back stuff that has already been processed on the server. So when we've been doing things like retrieving information from the database, we want this page to have the data from the database on it when we send it to the user. The other way we've been learning JavaScript when we're doing it with the script tags locally is then we'd have to have the script tag or our JavaScript client side still make a request to the server and get a resource back and then insert it into the page. So this is skipping an entire step and not putting as much work on the user's computer. It's saying, here's the entire resource you wanted. You don't have to do anything else. Most of your code, I would say 90% of the websites that I've ever worked on in my life in any professional capacity used a templating language first. You're still going to use JavaScript, especially client side. You still want to make it so that your pages are dynamic and update just the parts that you want them to update. But you're almost always going to have the complexity. Like this is a great example. If I had a logged in variable, let's make this real quick. We'll cover this in a second. We'll say log in errors. Extra period. So when you're building a real app, you're going to have code that looks like this, and it's going to say, if you're logged in, display the logged in section, else, display the. I'll just copy this. We'll say something like page 3. Log in. Please log in. Right? So I'm logged in as Eric Harrison right now, and when I'm not logged in as Eric Harrison, I can just let's just say false. Right? It will replace that content with please log in. Almost all the stuff you're going to build is you're going to build it as like a pretty complex back-end website first, because you want to send your users the data kind of pre-formed and ready to go. And then, and only then, after all the website is built, you're going to add the extra niceties to like have JavaScript work, right? Because I have this JavaScript plugin right here. If I click JavaScript is turned off right now, if I reload this page, everything still works because all the rendering happened on the server. And so we often, as developers, especially when we're building stuff for people on the internet to use, we cannot rely that JavaScript will be available for us to even take advantage of. So we want to build a website that runs on the back end so that when the users get it, they get an experience. Every other programming language, every other programming language that you're going to use for web development, PHP, Python, Ruby, C++, they all render all the content on the back end, and they're sending just pages back. PHP MyAdmin is a great example of this. Do I have a thing open? Let's see. I think I have it running. Oh, I do. Yeah, cool. That's like a local host, 480. Right? And I click on PHP MyAdmin. This is a PHP app. So all of this information here is happening on the server first before it even gets to me. So that's the reason why. Cool. So, let's take this out and go back to our other page. Right. So if I load, okay, so I don't have logged in here. Let's make logged in equals plus. This work. Perfect. Okay, cool. So that is when you put a EJS tag without a dash or a whatever after it, it just evaluates the code inside of it. It doesn't output it, but what it does do is it lets us like run an if statement. We used it on our recipes page to like loop through results, right? So let's do a loop. So let's make an unordered list, and let's just simply, I'll do $%. I'm gonna say for let I equals 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. And I will close this with a curly bracket. Oh, come on, stop. And then I say li, and then I can do dollar the EJS tag dash I, which is going to echo or print out that I, the value of I here, and then I run this, and we can see we've got our loop here, 0 through 9, just like we defined in our thing. So we'll use this syntax for like ifs, and we'll also use it for loops pretty often. Okay. Now, another thing that we will do with EJS, like these are the main things, right? Is EJS also comes with a built-in function for us to use, and so we can come in here and say include, and this is a function, and we run it just inside of a regular tag like this, and whatever we put in here, it's going to load that HTML or that EJS file inside our page, right? So I can say include page 2, right? And if I look at my page now, where's it at? Oh, my thing's broken. This page, do you have anything in it? Yes. Page 2. Page source. I should make sure here. Let's put it. Oh, it probably needs to be in a folder, huh? Partials. So I'm going to make a folder under views, and I'm going to call this partials. Right. So anything we want to include, it needs to be inside of a folder, inside of your views page. Right. So what this should do for us is if I reload this page now, for some reason it's not working. Let's do page 2. Hello from page 2. Let's put JS in here. And we'll say 1000. I need to restart my thing. Why is this not working? Oh, duh. Because we need to put it with the dash sign here, right? So this will replace the content in between these tags with whatever it gets. So include is just kind of like it's like saying, hey, read this file and put this HTML here. If we put in a equal sign, right, same rules apply as the other one, it's going to escape that code, which is not what we want probably. So dash. Does everyone kind of see how that works? And this, Leah, to answer your question, the reason why you want to do this is that it's very, very simple for us to template an entire website as a bunch of components that we piece together. And an example of that is, let's come in here and make a new file, and we'll call this menu.js, and we'll just make ourselves a little div. We'll say style equals float left, width 200 px, background color I don't know, like 333 777. Okay, div, and I'm gonna come in here and just put a ul, right, as if I was trying to make it like a real menu. Ahref equals something. Home. li. Home. Blog. About. Contact. Right. And so on my index page, I can come in here and just say wherever I want my menu to go, include my menu. And then I can put this on literally each and every page. Oh, let's wrap all this in a div. Div style equals float left, background color 888, margin left 20 px, width 400 px. Oh my goodness. Alright, so I've got like my main page content here, and I have a menu that's available on literally any place I want to put that menu. So you'll have a menu that's built You'll have a footer that's built. You'll have your header. If you had a logo, if you had a search bar, you can just come in here anywhere you want that to go and insert that code into your output. So it makes it very easy for you to quickly build a website that is full of complexity, that that you can use anywhere and everywhere, right? It lets you mix and match components and bring stuff around, right? All of the pages we were building in weeks like 1 through 5, we'd have to like have the entirety of our HTML code for each and every page that we wanted to have in there. And if we wanted to change a menu, we had to change it in 6 places. This is why modern software development in particular, and why we developed templating engines in the first place, is to have this specific functionality so that you can have reusable components that you bring around and use all over your projects. Cool. All right. So the other thing that we can do with our renders, right, and you kind of saw this when we were playing around, is the second argument is the object of values we're going to send to that template, right? And so this is where we would come in and we would just say, you know, every variable that I want this template to have value access to, I can let's make a title, and we'll say like EJS page example, right? And I can say name equals Eric, right? So all of these two variables, because we're passing it in this object here as the second argument to this function, is going to be available in here. So I can come up here and I could say the title. We put in equals title. Okay, and if we reload our page now, it's gonna. So it changed to EJS page example, but I can put title dash percent equals name. And you can see that now when I hover over this, it says EJS page example dash Eric. Everybody following along? And we could put, I could put percent equals name. So it lets us swap out content. We were doing this on our recipe page specifically because we would have our main app go to the database and get values out of the page, and then all we're doing is we would define a page and say, hey, this is where the recipe title goes, this is where the recipe description goes, these are the ingredients, these are the directions, and then the template, the page is one page, and we had EJS swap out the values of that page with the content that we send it in this object. Everybody following along? EJS is extremely, extremely powerful. There are other templating engines that work similarly, and I'm gonna show you them in a browser. EJS is a really good one because it very closely mirrors other modern programming languages. PHP is going to function very similarly to EJS. But let's look at another popular one is Handlebars. Right, Handlebars is another Node module, and to install it, you would say, npm install Handlebars, and then using it is just as simple, right? You can say it uses like 2 squiggly brackets as its code. So, in this example, you're saying Handlebars compile this template. Let me see, Handlebars express example. Right, so when you tell Express to use Handlebars instead of Node, the res.render function will send it to Handlebars templating engine instead. And so then you can see, you would still use app.set view engine handlebars, and then when you res render home, right, if you had a home page look like this, right, then you can use the handlebars syntax to replace the body variable. So there's a whole bunch of these. It's not important to be an expert in all of them. Just pick one and be good at it. And if you get to a job and they want you to use something else, it's very easy to go on NPM or read a tutorial and see how do I use this specific thing. Like the documentation here is pretty good. So everyone should have a simple little Express page with a single route for a slash that renders a page. And on that page, we've got a few examples of how to use EJS. I'm going to check all of my code into version control so you guys can use this as a resource, because this is kind of the basics of using it. But this is an extremely powerful tool, and you should definitely do this for everything you build going forward if you're going to build an Express-based website. Let's say implements simple Express / EJS page. Let me push, and we're good to go. What? All right, it's 8 o'clock. We've really covered like most of the stuff we wanted to cover this week. What would you guys like to do for our last hour together? Would we like to build something? Would you like to play a Kahoot game and see how our memory for these things are doing? We could probably find a sequel Kahoot if you wanted. What do you guys want to do?
I think Kahoot sounds useful.
Okay, let's do that. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can make sure the questions are good, and then we'll get it started and run. Kahoot. Well, I put in Kahoot. That's not right. Log in.
I wanted to let everybody know that I just spoke to my other instructor at Augusta Tech, who's a hiring manager for Columbia County. I told him about the thing on Saturday, the cybersecurity place convention thing. He said that it would be a really good idea to go to that. So if you have time to go talk to those people, network, big thing. So if you can make it, try to.
I found one that looks kind of fun. This one is going to be about SQL. I'm going to share my screen. I'll give you guys a few minutes to join. So yes, go to the thing on Saturday, right? You pasted the link in Slack.
Yep.
Sounds super good. If you can bring yourself to wake up before the crack of noon, those of you who are late sleepers should definitely attend.
He also suggested getting business type cards for yourself with your name and contact information on it, so you can hand it to people and they can remember you. With a picture. I suggest a picture so they know. Oh yeah, I remember you. I saw your face somewhere.
We got Estrella, we got Leah, waiting on Andrew, Gregory. Selena, you're a database expert. You should join this game too.
I don't want to.
You don't get to not want to.
Is that an option?
It's annoying for me. Just I don't have two screens, so I'm bouncing back and forth, and then I miss.
Doesn't it read to you the? Don't you get to see the question when you're on your screen?
No, I don't.
Oh, that's annoying. You guys need two screens.
I know.
You could just use your phone.
What I can do is I can make this smaller, so you can have them both in two windows side by side.
Are you trying to make sense right now?
Yeah. I guess Gregory's not joining. If he comes back, we'll let him in on the next game. I'm gonna click start. We're gonna have some fun. Here we go. What is the full name of SQL? What does SQL stand for? Ooh, somebody got the wrong one. Structured query language. Yep. Close. Oh, Estrella, you got fooled by the blue. Next question.
I did the mini window in case you do another.
Oh, okay. What is the subset of SQL commands used to manipulate database structures, including tables? I don't know the answer to this one. This seems like trivia. Data definition language? News to me. I would have gotten a 0. In SQL, which commands are used to change a table's storage characteristics? Which command starts a table change? We covered this super briefly. Ooh, yep. Most of you got that right. Estrella back in the leaderboard. Nice. In SQL, which of the following parts of a data manipulation language? Okay, what is a part of the language that changes records in a database? I feel like some of these questions are written by non-native speakers. But yes, you all got that right. Good job. Which of the SQL statements is correct? Well, 2 of those are correct. Oh, this one doesn't have a table. Yeah. Good. See? Quiz. The from SQL clause is used to Nice. Y'all got that one right. No fooling you guys. Uh-oh, Estrella's on a streak now. Let's go. And you're catching up to Andrew. Which of the following SQL commands is used to retrieve data? Yep. Exactly right. Oh man, you guys are neck and neck. Oh, okay. We didn't really cover covered what aggregate functions are, but let's see if you guys can guess the right one. The word aggregate means to combine records together. Okay, so when you run the average function, it's going to average all the values of, if you had like a quantity from our fruit example from the homework, right? You can get the average value of all those values. That's aggregating. Some of these you really just have to like know the name of the term. What SQL statement is used to update data in a database? Good. Ooh, Andrew's out to a commanding lead now. Nice. What statement is used to delete data from a database? We should all get this quickly. Yep, nice. What keyword is used to sort the result set? They got one of you. Yeah, it's order by. And this one looks correct because order like starts it, but you always have to have order by. So they count that as one part of the command. Ooh, Estrella takes the lead. Nice. Find all cities whose humidity is 89. Ooh. Yep, this one was the same as that first one that was a gotcha question. It forgot the from clause, so we don't know what table it came from. Andrew's falling behind. Can he catch up? Find the temperature in increasing order of all cities. all got that one right. Good job. The SQL where clause, colon, none of you got the right. So when we say where name equals Eric, it's limiting the rows that are coming back to you. If you had a whole big list of users, where is telling us which of those rows to give us back. The columns, if you remember, are like the name, password, email address. That one got all of you, huh? The command to eliminate a table from a database is, we didn't really cover this one, but we showed it in the program when you right click on a thing. Yeah, drop table. Oh, Leah sneaks in. Which of the following is the correct order of keywords for SQL select statements? Good. Yep. The result of a SQL select is a or an. Yeah, so it's returning a table of information to you. It's tabular data. I guess that's what they're... I've never heard anything called a report, but table is the only one in here that really makes any sense. That's just... I think that's like esoteric trivia knowledge. SQL query and modification commands make up a... DDL stands for data definition language, and DML stands for data markup language, I believe. HTML is hypertext markup language, and XML is extensible markup language. Yeah, so data markup language, I guess, is what SQL is classified as. Which of the following sorts rows in SQL? Everybody got that wrong. It's order by. When we want to change the order of something, we order by whatever. All right, final question. The SQL statement that reads or queries data from a table is... Yeah, select is going to give us data. Update is going to change data that exists. Insert is going to create a new data. And delete is going to remove data that's there. So the right answer is select. Cool. Who won? Andrew, you had the lead for so long. So close. Leah came second. Oh, Estrella swoops in at the last second. Nice job. Good job, everybody. All right. Let's see if we can find something else to get ourselves into here. Let me find us a new code quiz. Alright, here's a short one. We're going to play this one. Wait, I want to play two. Who is Andrew? Okay. We're all ready to go. Me, Selena, Estrella, Leah. Good. Here we go. Round 1. How do you answer things in this game? Alright, we all got it right. I'm fast. In order to use the count function, what other keyword must be employed? Ooh, this is an aggregate function. So we kind of showed this off today when we were looking at the joins, where we wanted to squish tables, squish rows together to just show one record. You guys remember that? Yeah. So you group by. We have to group by when we use aggregate functions like count or average or max. What do we do? What do we call a data field that is used to uniquely identify the record that contains it? Yep. The primary key is the main index of a table, right? You can only have one primary key. Leah's on a hot streak. Nice. What does SQL stand for? You all got that right? No fooling us. What keyword were used to update a data record? Nice. What SQL statement is used to delete data from a database without removing the table? We all got that one right. Good job, us. Which SQL statement is used to insert a new data into a database? This game's pretty fun. With SQL, how do you select a column name first name from a table name persons? Oh no. Dang it. Trying to go fast. That's sad. That's real sad. With SQL, how do you select all the columns from a table named persons? Which SQL statement is used to return only different values? Yeah, select distinct. We didn't cover that in the class, so. Which SQL keyword is used to sort the result set? Nice. With SQL, how can you insert a new record into the persons table? Who won? Probably Leah, maybe? Or Estrella? Oh, I won. Oh, third place. Dang it. So excited for a second. This game's rigged. Selena got second place. First place is Leah. Good job.
Let's go.
Good job. Estrella was fourth, and Andrew was fifth. Good job, everybody. All right, that was fun. Cool. It's 8:20. What do you want to talk about? Tomorrow we have a guest speaker, I believe. Let me double check this. Guest speakers. What do we have here? What's the name of this? CBC guest lecturers. Guests. Go ahead, Gregory. Gregory, you're muted. Okay. So 3:30, we're going to have a guest speaker that's going to talk to us about testing. We haven't covered testing yet, but we will probably next week because testing is an interesting concept so that we can have our code check itself so that when we're making changes to things, we make sure we don't break anything. It's a really powerful, like there's a whole industry of people that do quality assurance or test engineers. And so he's going to talk tomorrow, hopefully, about testing. So that'll be at 3:30. And then we're going to close out the week with a little bit more database stuff, a little bit more template stuff, and maybe we'll build some apps together. Tonight's homework, I'm going to have you guys build a EJS-based website with maybe a menu, a heading, a footer, and then we'll have a couple of pages in there that load content so that you can reuse these components around the page. Anything else? Anything we want to talk about? Any questions? Anything we want to review? Gregory and Leah. I guess Gregory's hand was still raised. Leah, go ahead.
So are we like never making a HTML file if we're using EJS?
So EJS is HTML. So this is all HTML still. When we build websites, we are always working in HTML. EJS is just putting JavaScript embedded into, EJS stands for embedded JavaScript. And so we're embedding JavaScript into HTML. So we still have to know HTML. You probably will never, in your professional careers even, you probably will never just make an HTML page by itself standing alone. Except for perhaps when you're building something for the first time, you might just make an HTML page to like lay out the design, get everything looking how you want it to do, and then you'll tear it apart into templates so you can reuse it tomorrow. So maybe that's what we'll do tomorrow, just as an example of how that works. We'll design a page together, or maybe we'll take one of your existing designs. Maybe I'll steal somebody who's a good designer like Andrew's portfolio, and we'll turn that into an EJS template or something like that. Or maybe we'll just download a template from the internet and chug away, turn it to EJS. But it's, I don't want you to think of this as like, are we going to do HTML again? This is all still HTML. We're just making it better and more functional by embedding JavaScript into it. Good question. Go ahead, Leah, again.
So what qualifies doing it in its own JavaScript file, and what would you put in the EJS file itself?
Can you rephrase the question? I don't quite understand.
Like so we're still gonna have like a JavaScript file in addition to that, right?
You mean client-side JavaScript or server-side?
Yeah, client side.
If we wanted this page to still do something with us, like we did this with our recipes page, if I pull that back up, right? Where's it at here? I'll open folder. That's what we do. Recipes, right? So EJS is creating our HTML content. Let's do npm run dev. Right.
So is all the JavaScript in the EJS file? Is that all client server side?
I'm trying to pull it up so I can maybe show this to you a little bit better. Localhost 5,000. That's where our recipe page is. Yeah, should look at it, huh? What port did we run this on? 5,000. Yeah. What the heck? What am I at? What do we have here in our? Oh, 8080. 8080. So EJS, so there's two components here. Our app is running app.js. This is Node. So this is running all in the back end. We could package this up and put this on a server, and the server is going to send this content to our client. But part of the content that is being sent to the client, if we view page source here, we're sending along a JavaScript client-side program that is doing all of our focus events and all the stuff we've been doing up until now, right? We're adding our click handlers in here. All of this is client-side stuff. It's stuff that happens in our browser when we're clicking around and doing things. Like when we click new recipe, all of this code that does our focus events, that is all in our recipes.js file. So I think like the thing that maybe is tough for you to understand is because we're using JavaScript on both the front end and the back end, it's you're struggling to like understand what is the differentiation, what is the dividing line, and the back end is where we define how we connect to our database, how we define all of the pages we're going to serve, how we generate our pages with EJS, even because these are EJS pages, right? So like here when we're getting our ingredients and cooking instructions, we're taking all of the database content and we're turning that into, like if we go to one of our recipes, right? All of these LIs are generated by our backend from EJS, right? We queried the database, we got all these ingredients, and we're looping through this in our code so that what we're sending to the client, to the user's computer, is just HTML. Like this to them, they don't know there's JavaScript here. They don't know how this page was built. As far as they know, somebody, really underpaid software development intern is in here like making web pages every single time you create a new recipe. But what's really happening is we've created one page and we're pulling information from the database and putting it on the page as if there was 1,000 different pages in here. So when you go to any website, like I don't know, what's a good example? Like news.ycombinator.com, right? Like this is one big web page with news here, but all of these articles are database driven. And when we click on comments, like all of these comments are loaded from a database and put on the page. We don't have to know, what the page looks like. Their output is ugly, right? This is terrible source code. But they just have to build a system, and then you can add a new article, and that new article will have a place for us to add comments, and we store those comments in the database. And so this lets us build very complex applications with very few lines of code. If we wanted to make this, back in the olden days, before we had even database-driven websites like this, like every single page you would make would be like your portfolio page, where it's like, I need to make page 1, a page 2, a page 3, and each of those pages you'd spend, all day laying out your page, changing the content of the page, and then if you wanted to go and change, the menu bar up here, new, past, comments, ask, show, all of those, you'd have to go and change it on each and every page. And so Node.js or PHP or Python, the back-end programming languages, let us do this dynamically so that we can write the code once and reuse it over and over and over again. Like, we're not logged in right now, but if I logged in as me, I don't have my username and password saved in here. If I logged in as me, the page would change, and it would say, you're logged in as Blister now. And so that's kind of the power of the back-end part of programming. And when you get into your careers, like unless you're specifically a front-end developer, which some of you may enjoy that, like Andrew had mentioned before, he liked the front-end stuff too. The front-end developers are probably just making the HTML and the JavaScript and the CSS. The back-end developers are making the routes. They're making the database connections and the code. And then what we're being trained for in this class is a full-stack developer, where you know enough to make the HTML, the CSS, the JavaScript for the browser, and you know how to make it work and connect to databases and do things there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the only reason we're teaching JavaScript here instead of a different language like PHP or Python or Ruby is because we've got 12 weeks. It's easier to teach you one programming language than teach you JavaScript and HTML and CSS and then pivot and teach you another. Like, we also have to learn SQL, which is another language itself, right? So I don't want to teach 6 things and have to remember all those different. Like, we can learn one syntax and then use it everywhere. And I think next week we talk about deployments. So we're going to package up these apps we've been building and put them on Heroku or put them on, Amazon Web Services or put them on a server somewhere. And then it'll really make sense to us because the server is completely outside of our control. And when we make a request to it as a user on our computer, whatever the server sends us is all we get to do on the front end. Right now, everything's running on our computer, so there's like a blurry line where it's like, the code is right here. Why wouldn't we just load it that way? What else? What other questions? a spider crawling on my wall. I might have to burn the house down. Go ahead, Andrew.
So if we, I plan on going to the event on Saturday. What exactly, how should you present yourself to somebody knowing that you aren't exactly like you couldn't throw me into the job tomorrow and I'd be like, oh shit, like I'm not ready, or I would feel, I'd feel like that. And so how should you present yourself not being, completed with a program and,
I would, so I'm going to approach this from a couple different angles. I'm going to answer your actual question at the very end. So,
okay.
Angle one is you guys know everything there is to know about being an entry-level full-stack web developer. You kind of know how to connect to a database. You know JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Not very well, mind you. Like, you guys have just begun scratching the surface. But you are at least familiar with, like, this is what JavaScript looks like. This is what HTML is. This is what CSS kind of does. You know as much as would be expected of you to know to be an entry-level person in any job. You have to think that, like, when you get your first job, your first 3 months is going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed, because you're going to go into a job that has a code base that already exists, that already has databases in place. And so you're just going to be asked to be like, go update this form so that when the user submits this data, we store this new record in the database. So you already know everything there is to know about, like, the extra steps you'll need to do to be on the job. I will also tell you that every single job you ever get from now until the end of time, you're not going to know enough to do that job. You're getting hired because of your capabilities. And so even when I get new jobs, I have to learn everything there is to know about that new job on the job. You're getting hired to be like a new person. So there's a popular philosophical concept called like imposter syndrome, where you always feel like you're the pretending and everybody else knows what they're doing. I've been doing this 20 plus years. You have to like trick your mind to be like, I am good enough for this, because you're always going to feel that way. Now, as to how you should approach this in this upcoming thing on Saturday, I would say, hey, my name is Andrew. I am going to be graduating from a code boot camp in a few weeks, 4 weeks from now. I am really interested in an entry-level position. I am very eager to learn. Here's my portfolio, and I'd love to talk with you in a few weeks when it gets a little bit closer to graduation. Are you even looking for candidates that are entry-level right now? Just present yourself as, hey, I'm young, I'm energetic, I'm eager to learn, I'm eager to contribute. Because if I'm hiring entry-level or if I'm hiring someone who's got 15 years experience, I only care, are you eager, and do I think that you're going to contribute to my team in a meaningful way? That's all we're ever looking for. So that's how I would approach it. Go ahead, Selena.
My teacher, he was telling me a lot about like interviewing and talking to people too. He mentioned that letting them know that there's more to you than just coding, that you have other interests outside of coding, and